Hey guys, what's up? Akasan here with my initial reaction, I guess, to Big Hero 6, or as they call out here, Baymax. So I just got back from seeing it last night or so, and now I just got out of bed, so there's the bed. Now, let's see, what did I think of that movie? It was enjoyable, that's for sure. I know it's an older story, and it came from Marvel Comics, but it wasn't like the Marvel Comics, so to speak. But I thought the story was simple. Sometimes the plot was a little bit slow. I guess for the target audience, let me put it this way, it wasn't my type of movie. It's not a movie that I would have been like, yeah, like, this is great, this is fresh, this is new. That being said, some concepts, some elements were very new, so to speak. I mean, we had, the entire plot was about a Japanese boy, and that was different, for sure. And then you could kind of say one of the other characters that were important to the story was his brother. So we had two Japanese boys or teenagers, young adults in this movie, and that part was really cool to see that. But one of the things I kind of felt about this movie was with the fact that there was a Wasabi, a black man was in this movie, and they just had a mix, and then they were really pushing the girl power, girl up, so to speak, a strong female presence. I felt, with all that being said, I kind of felt that Pixar, or whoever kind of made this movie, was playing it still very safe, so to speak. With all these elements and all these type of characters, it almost still felt like they were playing it very, very safe. Like, okay, they don't really focus so much about the fact of the nationalities of these characters, which is good. But at the same time, they really didn't differentiate how much different things could be. You guys know what I'm saying, basically? There's a point where that becomes too much, but then there's also a point where it was apparent that it was just kind of like they just kind of didn't want to make it a big situation, which it probably shouldn't be. But at the same time, they kind of just I don't know how to. I think the thing that stood out for me was the fact that Hiro and his brother, they were Japanese American, as far as we know, and for the most part, they just were like any other kids, which is fine. My best friend is Japanese American, and that's basically, well, I mean, now he lives in Japan and can speak better Japanese than most people, and most Japanese people don't think that he didn't even know that he's technically a foreigner. So, but I guess the one that stood out for me more was the Wasabi character, who was actually voiced by, I didn't know this, Damon Wayans Jr. I didn't know there was actually a Damon Wayans Jr., but obviously that name is quite well known. And, maybe it's the fact that I watched The Walking Dead a little, and like my idea of the Tyrese character from the actual comic book and the way he's kind of translated on screen as kind of a very emotional and like soft character. I kind of, but he looks like a really strong type dude, and he's a big guy, but he's quite emotional. He's singing and shit. This is what I kind of felt about Wasabi, was the fact that I didn't really want the stereotypical big black tough guy, but I almost felt like this dude was like, I don't know. It was hard for me to say, because, see, I know a cat just like that, like a nerd, big black dude, football player and everything, but he's a complete nerd. Always talks about Spider-Man comics and blah, 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 blah. And he does act very similar to Wasabi. But that's the point. That's kind of the part that bothered me a bit with the fact that everybody, toward the end of the movie or so, everybody basically was manning up or womaning up, so to speak. But this dude was still kind of like, very weak, which I didn't like. This is something that bothered me a little bit. The one black character that they had in the entire show really didn't have any balls on him, which, was a personal just problem of mine, I believe, especially this dude had twist in his hair and everything. I'm like, come on, man. Come on. So, especially the Wolverine type thing. I was like, come on, dude. But I guess that being said, that's pushing the envelope, so to speak. Any other things that I thought, the story was very different than I thought. I didn't know that Baymax was kind of like a robot nurse or caretaker, which was very different than I thought, and maybe, like I said, that's probably why it wasn't the type of movie that I like, so to speak, and especially with Hiro's whole reason for doing what he does, and, you know, he likes vengeance. Like, he didn't really... That was something that I obviously, you know, with being a fan of Batman, Arrow, vengeance tends to, Shingeki no Kyojin, Eren, like, tragedy tends to lead to some sort of vengeance or hang up, but, Hiro wasn't showing that too much in the movie. Actually, the most enjoyable part of the movie for me, sadly to say, was when, Hiro switched the, clips, the program things on his, on Baymax thing. He just took out the nice part of Baymax and Baymax went straight Hulk on everybody. That actually was very cool for me. I was like, yeah, kill him! Baymax smash! So, but that, again, that's why I'm saying this was a very, very simple, very basic Pixar-style movie. All the elements were there. You kind of knew what the ending was going to be. I will say one thing. Interstellar really, Interstellar was good or influential when toward the end of Baymax, you really start thinking about Interstellar and if where, for those of you that haven't seen it, where Hiro and Baymax end up going, when they come out, was 7 years going to pass in the real world, so to speak. So I thought about that in Wormholes. It was kind of funny about at that point. I guess my last point here, and I know it sounds like I'm disappointed with the movie, but, to be honest, I didn't really know what to expect from this movie. And from the reaction trailers I did, I never really was that interested in the trailer to begin with. But it was either watch Baymax for my last movie of the year or The Hobbit, and I haven't been a fan of the Hobbit movies in terms of paying that much money to go see IMAX, all that. Like, I've never been a fan of the story of The Hobbit because I liked it the first time when it was called Lord of the Rings, or the first time it was released, so to speak. So anyways, I'm gonna wait for a Hobbit to come out on Blu-ray, the last one. It's enough for me. Anyways, my last point here that I'm going to make about the Baymax, or Big Hero 6, as you guys would know it, is with the acquisition. Now I know this was a Marvel comic originally, and now this was a Pixar Disney type deal, right? So with the acquisition of Marvel last year or the year before, you would think that the influence of having Marvel characters or something, even if it wasn't the same world or it doesn't have to be the same world as the Avengers or the MCU, but at least there were many times in this movie, especially there was one character, the white guy, who was super rich and he had a whole super geeked out, lots of comic books. I just sort of felt that would have been a great opportunity because they were name dropping these quote unquote like characters of comic books, and they were so close to like and I almost feel like they kind of hinted at it, but you know, it just seemed like it would have been like a piece of cake to have actually name dropped real Marvel characters like Doctor Doom, classic villain, Dr. Octopus, lots of doctors there. The Norman Osborn, millionaire, with the side, dual identities. So, you know, this was kind of weird to me that they didn't do that or have more influence of the Marvel world in this particular movie. But other than that, I did like the cameo though. That was kind of cool, kind of silly, but I did like it actually. That was probably the most important or most interesting part to me of in terms of just getting a reaction from me was that particular cameo. I'm not, if you guys have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I'm trying not to spoil it for you. I don't know, you guys probably will like it. The younger audience, my younger audience will probably like it because you probably haven't seen movies and stories like this within the last 5 to 10 years, but there is kind of a hint, there was a hint of The Incredibles in this movie, and I don't know, that's why it just didn't feel like anything special for the most part. It was cool, parts of it looked very good, but overall, you know, Frozen was much better for many reasons, and you know, it'll be fun, and hopefully it'll still have life after this movie. But I highly doubt it. I think this is kind of just one of those Pixar filler type movies to add to the library, and you know, that's that. Enough. Hopefully, it makes enough. The ratings, the results, the critiques really like it. So hopefully, it'll be good enough to make the money back and push more the envelope or so. But yeah, definitely won't have, I don't think it'll have that cult fixation like Lilo and Stitch or Nightmare Before Christmas or obviously Frozen, which next year, Frozen Forever, opening up in Tokyo Disneyland. Here's the last thing, and maybe about the plot that I'm going to say. And if you haven't seen the movie, maybe this is a good time to cut the video off. So see you later. Nevertheless, if you have seen the movie, it's the reveal of who is the Kabuki master, right? And this was Kabuki, the guy in the Kabuki mask, right, was the professor, okay? So here was, you know, it was not, I mean, I know that was supposed to be kind of a shock or whatever, and part of it was, but I just kind of felt, maybe this is the problem that I had was, you know, I expect the best from a fantasy movie, was I felt like the professor's motivations and his entire persona was very 180. So from that point on, it was the fact that, you know, he seemed to care deeply about his students and their progress and things like that in the beginning of the movie. But then it just, his whole idea of like, you know, the fact that Hiro's brother Takai died. Anyways, the fact that he died, he's just like, that was his choice. Like, I was like, okay, what the hell happened to you? And he just it almost seemed like a complete, like I said, a 180, that this guy was completely focused on revenge. Whereas the thing with his daughter, where she died or whatever, or she disappeared into the wormhole, that obviously happened before the exhibits and all that. So it just seemed like none of that, the professor's character was really reflected as much in that form or fashion. So that I kind of had a problem with this, was like he suddenly became the bad guy, and it didn't seem like, you know, and every good villain should have some sort of like reason, like some sort of understanding about why they do what they do, basically. And for the thing with his daughter, I always felt like, well, you know, are you really gonna be this vengeful on this dude, opposed to maybe trying to, if you could create this wormhole or whatever, you know, go searching for her, or I don't know. So my idea about this particular plot point was, I was just thinking to myself last night, and I kind of thought would be a little more interesting. Maybe this is more Nolan in me or whatever, but I thought instead of the guy behind the kabuki mask being the professor, what if it was his brother, actually? I thought this was kind of cool, and maybe this is because I've just happened to be reading up on Reverse Flash or whatever after that Flash mid-season finale, but what if it was his brother? What if that would have been quite the shock, right? His brother would have faked his own death for several reasons, and let's just say that the woman that was the astronaut or whatever was Hero's older brother's girlfriend or something, and they were engaged to be married. Okay? You feeling me on this? Now, Hiro's older brother basically got his little brother, Hiro, into the academy so someone could continue doing research while Hiro's brother basically goes on this quest for vengeance, setting everything up. And basically, he's still able to push Hiro to be the better scientist and to do something with his life, basically. Kind of a la the way one of the versions of Reverse Flash does things to Gibbs' tragedy to Flash to make him a better hero. So I kind of thought that would have been actually pretty dope. And then at the end, the heroes win and such. But Hiro will always have this kind of hang up about him is because he's the scientist and he's an inventor, the kind of the Japanese Tony Stark or the DC Toy Man, basically. He's that good, but he had to put his brother away in jail to be that type of hero. I thought that would have been pretty dope. Anyways, Marvel, give me a call. We'll do lunch. Until the Batman vs. Superman trailer comes out, or another movie, I go watch another movie, I shall keep my reactions honest. Rocket punch!